My last few months after my wife cheated on me. Over the past 30 years, computers have revolutionized our lives. They affect all of us, some for the worse, but mostly for the better. Almost a year ago, my laptop changed my life, but for the worse. I was stuck in Salt Lake City for a week-long meeting. It was my first night away from home, and I called home as usual. And what was it? I got to enjoy watching a live love show on my computer. Despite her advanced age, the woman on my little 14-inch screen had all the right curves in all the right places, hips and breasts. She was making love to her partner. I had had enough. I logged out of the program and turned off the computer. I wasn't at all turned on by what I had just witnessed. In fact, the whole thing disgusted me. The woman on the screen, the one in the throes of intense lovemaking, was none other than my beautiful wife, Martha. And this scene was taking place in our home in Sacramento. Martha is a beautiful 47-year-old woman. After almost 25 years of marriage and 2 grown children, she is still a very sensual woman with all the right curves. I, Bob McLeod, a 49-year-old architect, loving husband for 25 years, and now a cuckold. I had known for a long time that something was wrong between Martha and me. She was aloof, often distracted when alone with me, barely listened to me, and our lovemaking wasn't the best. I was suspicious of her new habit of working late at work and on weekends. So, as my trip approached, it became clear that I had to find a way to keep tabs on her while I was away. It wasn't very difficult, just expensive. I had several motion-activated video cameras installed throughout the house under the guise of a new security system. I could monitor each camera from anywhere in the world. In a way, I'm glad I discovered her cheating that night. After a few minutes of self-pity, my anger took over. With no outlet to let it out, that anger just raised my blood pressure to a new peak. And the first thing I realized, I was down. I knew something was wrong, very wrong. I had time to call 911, give them my number at the Hilton, and I passed out. I woke up later that night in the ICU. To make a long story short, a few days later, after numerous tests, I learned that I was suffering from a neglected stage of endocarditis. Most of my heart valves were severely damaged. In just a few days, I learned twice that my heart was broken. Figuratively speaking, I was heartbroken to discover that my 25-year marriage was over and that my loving wife was nothing but a cheating and lying cheater. I was also literally heartbroken when I learned that I had very little to live without a heart transplant, a year at most. Under any other circumstances, I'm almost certain I would have chosen the long, slow road out of my marriage to Martha. But now I had no time to waste. All alone, bedridden in an unfamiliar city hospital, all I could do was plan for the next few months, my last few months. Yes, I'm a cruel loser, and it's true that I mostly plan to get revenge on my wife and her lover. So sue me. I'm sure I won't be there if it goes to trial. It was only my aversion to firearms that kept me from flying home and shooting up the crime scene, also the fact that I couldn't fly. I had to take a long ambulance ride all the way home. My brother Steve was very surprised when an ambulance pulled up to his house in Elk Grove, California. There was no way I was going home, and I didn't want to impose on my kids. That left my twin brother Steve. When a stranger or just an acquaintance looks at us, they can't tell us apart. But anyone close to us can spot the difference. One of the big differences is that I only have one kidney, just like Steve, but I have my right kidney, and he has his left kidney, my kidney. You see, in his early 20s, Steve traveled a lot. He didn't know he had a severe infection. He let it undermine his health for months, and when the doctors found out, he was near death from kidney failure. After several tests and surgery, he was back on his feet with one of my kidneys. No wonder I turned to him in my hour of need. I didn't have to ring a bell. As the medic was pushing me in my wheelchair toward the house, company policy since I can walk on my own, the front door opened and Steve came out. "Bob, what's going on? What is all this about? An ambulance and a wheelchair?" "Well, Steve, it's good to see you too," I said, getting out of the wheelchair. I turned to the medic to shake his hand. Thanks, buddy. Would you like to grab a coffee before heading back to Salt Lake City? No, thanks. My wives are waiting for me, and I don't want to give them too much to complain about. One wife complaining is one thing, three is quite another, said the medic. I'll go. Take care of yourself. Poor man. I looked at him as he walked slowly to the ambulance, as if he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. I walked past Steve and into the house, my little brother following at my heels, just like 49 years ago when he followed me about an hour later, turning my mom's ordeal into a nightmare. Now I can see why my mom loved me the most. I walked over to the fridge, grabbed 2 beers, and sat down at the table, offering one to Steve. He waited a bit before asking again what was wrong with me. Well, I'm fucked up. I guess there's no better way to say it. For one thing, my heart is like Swiss cheese, and it doesn't have many miles left in it. I have less than a year to live, the doctors said. Upon hearing this statement, my brother jumped up from his chair, stunned, with a look of pain on his face. Oh, Bob, that's terrible. Can't they do what they did to me? The transplant? Well, I was put on the recipient list, but the doctor said I didn't have much of a chance. Remember we have rare blood? Add to that my age and the fact that I'm only working on 1 kidney, and I'm not very high on the priority list. That sucks, my brother said, leaning back in his chair. How is Martha reacting to the news? I didn't answer right away. I just looked at him, and that gave him time to connect the dots. He looked at me when he realized that Martha probably didn't know. Oh my God, she doesn't know, does she? You came here straight from Salt Lake, my brother concluded. What's going on, Bob? Why didn't you go home? Steve, I found out I have a heart condition after I had a heart attack in Salt Lake City, I told him. And I had a heart attack after I found out Martha was cheating on me. It almost killed me. Okay. How did you find out she was cheating on you? Steve asked. It doesn't matter how, I answered him. I only have a few months to live and I don't want to be hurt anymore. That fool has made an attempt on my life. I won't even divorce her. What are you going to do? Steve asked. First, I'm going to get my hands on as much cash as I can. I'm really going to enjoy these next few months. Second, I'm going to change my will and life insurance. There is no way this fool will get anything from my death. All to the kids. A thought just occurred to me. Were they my children? How long had she been cheating on me? What? Steve asked, noticing my silence. How bad is it? I don't even know if they're my kids. I'm gonna have to do some DNA tests. Wait, don't go there, bro, Steve said soothingly. If you only have a few months to live, you don't need to be heartbroken. Don't wake a sleeping dog. You're right. Anyway, I'm completely exhausted. I need to lie down, but not a word to Marta while I'm sleeping. I only have a few months to live and I need my brother, I said. Steve came over and put his arm around me. The next morning, Steve took the next morning off. He then became my chauffeur for the day. The first stop was the bank. I removed what I could from our savings and cashed out everything we had stored in our safe deposit box. The total amount came to about $150,000. Second, I went to my employer, gave him all the necessary paperwork from my doctor, and quit on the spot for medical reasons. I could swear I saw a tear appear in my cool boss's eyes. Within an hour, I had a check for all my accrued vacation, my unpaid salary, and my 401k. By lunch, I had over $500,000 in cash and checks, and the checks would be cashed as soon as I could. Right after lunch, I had an appointment with an attorney. Steve pounced on me to tell him exactly what I planned to do. I asked him to trust me with everything and promised that he would know everything by the end of the day. When we arrived, my lawyer had everything ready to go. I signed some papers, leaving my kids whatever I still had that I couldn't cash in, and Steve signed on as a witness. This was the country cottage I had inherited from my parents, my car, my boat, and a few other toys. I then signed a power of attorney for Martha, leaving her the rights to all the money she could get from the sale of the family home. We already had about $250,000 in equity, and that was to be her share of our estate. I gave the lawyer a letter to give to Martha when he met with her the next day. Dear wife, you have sneakily stabbed me in the back, and I would never have believed the day would come when I would call you a cheater. That's the only name I can use since I found out that you betrayed me, that you stabbed me in the back, that you cheated on me. I loved you, and I really thought you loved me. Now I know the truth. You'll get a power of attorney authorizing you to sell the house. I've withdrawn everything else from our bank accounts. The house is your share of our life together. I'm not a thief, and everything is divided equally. I won't even divorce you. I'll just be happy that I'll never see you again. I'll just leave you and hope you die in agony soon. Bob. Steve read over my shoulder as I wrote the letter. Well, I see you're old enough not to let your pain dictate, my brother, Steve said with a sparkle in his eyes. Dad always said you should never let your emotions run your life, I replied. I then went in to see my insurance agent to change the beneficiary of my life insurance. The benefit would be split between my two children. I didn't tell the poor guy that there was a good chance that his company would soon pay out on my policy. By the end of the day, I was exhausted again. Steve drove me back to his house as I really needed to rest. The next day, I woke up early and looked at my brother as he was leaving for work. He offered to ask for another day off, but I insisted not to change his behavior too much. As soon as he left, I went back to my room, packed my things, and called a cab. 2 hours later, I was on a flight to Acapulco. I knew that Steve or the kids would never be able to keep a secret from Martha for long, and I was determined to spend the next few months away from this woman. I needed to enjoy life as much as possible, and being separated from my wife was a very good start. I rented a villa and hired a maid cook to help me. She was very helpful, and she was nice to boot. I also contacted a world-renowned Mexican cardiologist. 2 weeks later, I called my children and my brother to update them on my whereabouts. As for my brother, this was in addition to the note I left him explaining that I had to leave the country but would call him soon. Bob, why did you run away like that? My brother asked. And guess who your wife went to for comfort? It's all right, Steve. I know you can play the part of the considerate guy, I said. Anyway, I'm calling to let you know that I'm living in Mexico and I'm loving it. The kids are coming to visit me next week, but they promised to keep it from their mom. What about you? Could you come over after that? It's a deal, my brother replied. I'll take a vacation. Where are you? Just get on a plane to Acapulco, give me the flight number, and someone will come get you, I said. You don't trust me to keep a secret, bro? It sounds like it's cloak and dagger. I haven't even told the kids about it. I don't want to take any chances. I met Steve at the airport. We grabbed his bags and headed to the waiting limo. Our destination was a good hour away from Acapulco, practically in the countryside. As we approached Villa del Corazon, Steve was impressed. Bob, is this the villa you rented? No, it's an addition to my doctor's medical center. Sorry about that, but I had an appointment here the day you arrived, I said. Come with me. The limo driver will take your luggage to my place while we wait for the doctor to examine me. We went inside and the nurse led us to the reception area. We were the only customers. Shortly after she left, an orderly came in and offered us a drink. We both took a glass of fresh juice each. Salud, I said, raising my glass toward my brother. Salud. I drained the glass of juice in one swift motion, and Steve followed suit. So what's up with this doctor? My brother asked. Does he have a miracle cure that no one in the U.S. knows about? No, but he is a famous heart transplant surgeon. Oh, I take it he's a very good surgeon? Well, I don't know if he is. I chose him because he has a rather vague sense of ethics, I said. Steve looked at me curiously. I don't get it. Loose ethics? What do you mean by that? Well, for the right price, he doesn't care where the organ comes from. And for an extra fee, he gets it himself. Steve looked at me, shocked. "This isn't serious, Bob," he started to say. Yeah, I don't feel so good. I'm dizzy." I got up and walked over to my brother. I took his hand. "Steve, you're my brother and I would do anything for you," I said, hoping to tell him everything before he passed out. "In fact, I already gave you one of my kidneys. And how did you repay me? You slept with my wife. You betrayed the man who saved your life, your own brother. For that, I want my kidney back. And while we're at it, I'm gonna take your heart. It's payback time, brother. Our father always said we both had our hearts in the right place. That'll be true for you soon enough." I'm not sure he heard my last tirade. I rang the bell and the orderlies came back into the room to get us ready. After many weeks of post-op recovery, I left Mexico and returned to California. I was still too weak to work, so I asked my children to let me live in a cottage. Most of my money was used up, but I still had enough left to live for a few more months without working. Because of my situation, I couldn't get any unemployment benefits or health insurance. Steve's disappearance did not go unnoticed. In fact, it was my dear wife who brought this fact to light. As soon as I arrived, the children informed me that everyone was looking for their Uncle Steve and that their mother had contacted the police. The following week, a police detective came to the cottage and asked if I had any information on Steve's whereabouts. I told him that the last time I had seen him in Mexico, he was alive and well, but that I had not heard from him since. The inspector, of course, smelled something amiss, but whatever it was in another country and there was nothing he could do about it. He showed up a few times just to see if I was going to break down and confess, but then his visits stopped. I knew the day would come when I would have to face my wife face to face. It was a warm summer day, and I was working in the cottage, topless, painting an old barn. I didn't hear her approach. "So this is where you're hiding?" "No, I'm not hiding," I said, not even turning around and applying paint to the wall. "Everyone who matters in my life is my 2 kids. They know where to find me." "And me? I don't count?" Martha asked. "Not anymore," was my simple answer. For a while, she sat in silence. "I never had a chance to tell you how sorry I am, Bob," she said very timidly. I realized that she would stay here unless I kicked her out. I put the brush back in the paint can and turned around. Her eyes nearly popped out of her orbits when she saw the very red T-shaped scar I had on my chest, the mark of my heart transplant story. "Look, if it makes you feel any better, just say your piece and then get the hell out of here. You have to realize that I don't care about you now, one way or the other." I could see tears streaming down her face, but I also noticed that it left me without any emotion. None, no. No anger, no pity. Absolutely nothing. "What's that?" she asked, pointing her finger at my chest. My irritation rose. "It's just a scar. I needed a heart transplant, and I got one." "Oh," that's all she said. "Did the police ask about Steve?" They did. "And what did you tell them?" The truth. That I had no idea where he was, but that a piece of him would stay with me forever, right here. And I tapped myself on my sternum where my new heart was. I turned around to grab my T-shirt. This was a mistake, as it gave Martha a good view of the scar from the newly opened access to my left kidney. "What happened to the scar after kidney surgery?" I was annoyed and made another mistake. "Yes, and I got my old kidney back," I said. It took a while for Martha to get the message. I saw her face go pale, and then she turned and ran away without even saying goodbye. Stupid. Good thing I didn't offer her one of my last beers. Shortly thereafter, I got the divorce papers, signed them, sent them back, and never saw her again. For those wondering, DNA showed that my children were indeed mine. The end. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you!